Okay. Part two is going to prove to be pretty interesting here. It really is. I mean, what I'm going to show you and how it's going to manifest. It's not going to connect. It's going to manifest. It's going to manifest in the same way that you've seen me show everything else. And then it will back everything else that I've already shown. And it will show you consistently over and over and over and over again. And anything I touch, anything I show, anything that I look at, anything that I speak about, I'm going to show you the same thing. And that the people that are involved in this are going to go down. They're going to go down. And they're going to go down hard. And they're not going to go down in the sense to where it's in Isaiah 34 where it talks about the unicorns and the bulls coming down with them. No, it's not going to be at their leisure. And Hosea, it already describes that Ephraim should not stay long in the place of the breaking forth of children. We know that that's Shinar, that's the moon. Of course, the breaking forth of children is associated with the Black Madonna, and she's bringing her wicked man-child in this association with the fallen prince. And we've talked about this in its connection with CERN. As they've advertised, they've found this spirit particle, which I call basically a spirit brick. And then we have them talking about now needing this dark matter. But nonetheless, there's a whole bunch of occultic science behind all that, how they have brought this spiritual being into a physical body basically by overriding the seal, which is all bound up within the atom, the number of man, which is 666, 6 electrons, 6 protons, and 6 neutrons. For those of you who didn't know, the mark of a beast, the number of the beast is also the number of a man. And there's really no mystery in it. It describes the carbon atom. The carbon atom is an association with darkness. Carbon is shadow, is shading. And you know that from a pencil. That's a carbon lead. And you use this to create shading or to draw dark lines. This carbon itself, when you even put an imprintation on the paper, you cause a small valley, and in that valley is filled darkness. In other words, the carbon is the valley of the shadow of death. Now, Inky is trying to enter into this valley of the shadow of death, the 666, the carbon existence. In other words, this high spirit being is trying to become a beast. But in other words, he's going to be a marked beast. And as we know, he's marked for abomination. But of course, they like to advertise the mark like it's something that they're proud of. But in reality, they have no idea what it's truly all about. In perspective from him and what his lot is going to be, what his camel lot is going to be all about when this thing really goes down. So we'll talk about some things in heavy detail here as I'm beginning to bring, at least in my mind, an expansion into a singular view. So it's important to see and realize we'll be taking this Saturn. We've looked up Saturn. We've seen that there are these agents pretending to be Christians, and then there's a lot of people out there that are just accusing everybody else of being connected to the Saturn thing, but somehow they know all about this Saturn stuff. And we're going to find out that it's really these people that are all about Saturn. As we see here, it's the very same thing, that synagogue of Satan. All right? They have rejected Jesus Christ. Everyone should know that Israel rejected Jesus Christ. They had him put up on that cross. And even to this day, they have sought to put up every Christian believer in Jesus Christ right up on the same cross. And they do it on this channel daily. They spit, they mock, they accuse, they slander, they lie, they cheat, they plot my death. They revel in it. And the only thing that we can continue to do is to try to share with them the truth. And of course, offer them the mercy of Jesus Christ and to allow them to see these things manifest for themselves. There's a real warning. These people have a choice, as we all have a choice. And if you're a part of something to do with some sort of murderous plan by some huge network of spiritually deceived, ritualistic, practiced peoples, you might want to get out. You might want to get out and realizing that there is a humble way that something is being sent to you, because whether you guys judge my personality or my character any way you want, the foods that I eat, whatever. It's not what goes in a man's mouth that defiles him, it's what goeth out. Always remember that. Always remember that. So, I don't really know who any of you guys are personally, but from what I know of you personally, what you're showing me is you're not too friendly. The best thing that I can do is to continue to try to be as friendly as I can to you through all of this and hope that you guys finally truly wake up from your field of dreams. Okay? So, it's important. Retain that we have gone from Saturn now to Saturnalia, which is describing these types of activities, these types of characteristics, if you will. All right, now just look up above it in connection to where we know that in Zechariah 11:17 it describes these as those idol shepherds. Now we know that the idol shepherds, if they're idols, they've got a lot of money. They're the elite, they're the select. They're the rich. They're the people that run the big businesses. They run the military. They run the corporation. They run the entertainment, the music industries. They're the stars of this world. They're the idols of this world. And we see everything about them that you could possibly imagine that we are seeing that's associated with this commercial luxury sodden Babylon, just like she's described in the Bible. Exactly. Exactly. And of course, even drunken, the whole thing, gluttonous, indulged. I mean, it just does not stop. And then it all funnels on down here to this Saturnalian, right? Free living, high living. We know the high living for the fractals in association with Shinar. We see the unchaste woman is having to run and flee to birth her bastard child. Plain and simple. Now that's important. It's going to be really important because we have to look at this in perspective also to what Jesus Christ is telling us, because I'm trying to get you to see that what you don't believe in the reality of Jesus Christ, you don't believe that he's real. And I know that he's real. And I know Jesus Christ personally, and I know that's thrown around real softly, I guess. A lot of people don't take it seriously when you say something like that. Well, you might want to take me serious. I'm very serious about that. That's why I have supreme and perfect faith, and it's a supreme and perfect faith that you can have too. You just have to seek him honestly. You can't seek him looking for faults. You can't seek him looking for imperfection, because there is none in him. You'll never find him that way. You must find him by looking for his perfection. And his perfection is all bound up in his love, his patience, and his mercy. And then you begin to look for those character attributes within the Bible, which is correctly dividing the word, to see from the fruits, as he said, ye shall know them by their fruits. We know that the fruits of Yahweh are inconsistent, but the fruits of Jesus Christ are the same yesterday, today, and forever. And I can show you that regardless of what their science says about Jesus, regardless about what their paid institutional archaeologists say about some of these ancient spiritual cities and religious places of our historical past, the truth of Jesus is there. It's there, and they hide it up. And they hide it up in such a way that they fear it, and it's the exact same way that they fear the truth that I'm bringing you right now. It's like they almost can't allow it to be said because they know how powerful it really is. I could really give one flying hoot about what they say on their channels and what they're doing. It's all meaningless. It's all babble, and it's all empty. It's all riddled with riddles because it's nothing but full of holes like Swiss cheese. You know, to have the truth has got to be consistent. For it to be consistent, it has to be everlasting. To be everlasting, it has to have a firm foundation. That firm foundation must be built upon trust. True trust. True trust is built upon love. Love is tempered by mercy. Jesus Christ is that mercy. Jesus Christ is the foundation of all. Understand that. Jesus Christ wants mercy and not a sacrifice. You don't believe me? Go check the video. Check the video. What kind of sacrifice is he talking about? He's talking about the sacrifice of Isaiah 34. He's talking about the sacrifice of even him being put on the cross. He's talking about a sacrifice of the stoning in the Old Testament that was taking place in the book of Numbers. He's talking about a lot of things at once. So it's important to realize that I'm going to show you that this is all consistent for everything that we're talking about, and everything that we talk about, it's going to be expanded, but I'm going to bring this expansion into a singular view if you just have the patience and you have the will and you have the want to seek it out, plain and simple. As we're looking at this unchaste woman, we got to know that this is all bound up in the sacred feminine, which is also coded into the two columns of Freemasonry, Jachin and Boaz. Jachin represents beauty, okay, and then Boaz represents the beast. Jachin is white, in other words, fair. Fair-skinned, fair-complected is associated with white or Caucasian. And we're also going to see that this is going to show up in our little book here as we track down this meaning of these understandings of Saturnalia and the things that are associated. It's going to blow you away. It's going to absolutely blow you away. Okay, so I want you to see that Jesus Christ is telling you the same thing here in Luke chapter 11 as we look down further at verse 33 that connected perfectly with Zechariah 4 that described the God of this earth, Enki, this one that they're trying to bring to Shinar and hide in this bushel, this candle. They're trying to hide it and bring it to this secret place. Well, Jesus Christ describes that for you right here, that it is not him, that it is this false king that's associated with Zechariah 4. It's associated with Zechariah 5. It's associated with them going to Shinar with that wickedness in the Ephah basket that we know in the movie E.T. is showing you, with the Elliots that are riding their bicycles up against that moon. They're being lifted up, and guess who's in a basket, which is an Ephah? Well, that would be an E.T., or in other words, an Enki. Elliot is the Elites, the select or the elect, the elected privileged few that we saw here that was beginning to be shown to us in that Rajas Theosaurus as it connected with the unchastised woman. Okay? Now my point is to show you that there's a lot of stuff in the book of Luke that we've already looked at in previous videos. For those of you who don't know what this is, check out Bye Bye, Miss American Pie, and Spiritual Wickedness in High Places. Watch those in full up to the point, and you'll understand what we're talking about. So, if we were to just go back a little bit in Luke, notice the tone of talk. He's talking about Satan's kingdom, the synagogue of Satan. In other words, all these people that are associated with this Jewish mysticism, Jewish traditionalism that has been influenced by ancient Babylon. As you know, the Jews were captive in Egypt, but also captive in Babylon. Both of these places have left their mark upon them, and we see these people of today with the mystery societies are showing that mark in association with this mark of the beast that we saw connected with Satan at the beginning of this video. So at verse 18, we know that the verse 18 is actually 666. You know, we know that the 666 is 3 sixes, 3 sixes is 18. We're going to see this show up in some other ways if we get to it. But anyway, if Satan also be divided against himself. Now, why would Satan be divided against himself? Well, some of them go up, some of them go down. And this is what he's talking about. He's talking about some of them go to the land of Shinar, and some of them going down. He's talking about this division. They're not going to be able to stand. And he describes something about who their judges will be. And it's going to be the Dans, as we saw in Genesis chapter 49, right out of Jacob's mouth. We know that Dan is a serpent. In other words, we see that the Dans come out like ravening wolves. They are ravening locusts. They are eating everything up. Well, guess who's taking all the goods? And they've taken it to Shinar. Well, guess who's going to Shinar to get the goods? The Dans end up going to Shinar, and it's exactly what he's going to describe here. He says, when a strong man armed keepeth this place, his goods are in peace. Well, that's Ephraim. That's the idol shepherd. That's the strong arm of Ephraim talked about in Hosea. That's up there in that place of Avian, which we know now is connected to that high place, Egypt on. Of course, this is their New Jerusalem that would be associated with Zion, which is that dry place, which we know is on the dark side of the moon. But it says, when a stronger than he shall come upon him and overcome him, he taketh from him all his armor wherein he trusted and divideth his spoils. Those are the Dans, just as described. Jacob said that they were going to judge him. Now we see Jesus saying they're going to judge him. For some reason, Israel just ain't figured this out yet. But when a stronger than he shall come upon him and overtake him, there's going to be a little battle up there against these people. Because I'm telling you, These Dans are cold. They are callous. They are merciless. They're everything that Jesus Christ is not. They are going to be the opposite of that. That is what you've wished for. That's what you're going to get, and you're going to suffer those repercussions. You've done this great work to bring them in. Well, suffer your brats. Suffer your brats, and then you're going to suffer the presence of your chief brat, and you're going to find out that when you break a mirror, there is 7-year bad luck. That's right. Breaking this mirror, breaking this seal, there's going to be 7 years bad luck, right? Well, that's the exact same reign of the supposed Antichrist, is it not? He's going to be a colossal headache. That's right. You want to talk about ego, pride, and vanity that all you guys think that I got somehow? Whew, you ain't seen nothing yet. Jack be nimble, Jack be quick, Jack jumping over the candlestick. We'll see. We'll see. But when it's stronger than he shall come, that's the dance. Jesus just set it up here. And of course, he says it further in John 10, verse 12, as he clarifies. And that is not, and he that is not with me is against me, and he that gathereth not with me scattereth. So those that don't gathereth the sheep to the true shepherd, they only scatter, and they're going to scatter Israel also, if you understand the prophecies from Hosea, Amos, and everything that I've been showing you thus far. So that's going to be verse John, or chapter 10 in the book of John, verse 12. As we know, chapter 10 in the beginning is all about the army of Joel 2. If you want to find out about that, watch the video series I did entitled Ye Are Gods. So back me up on that. John chapter 10 verse 12 will describe that these are the Dans. It's all about the army of Joel 2. It describes the idol shepherds of Zechariah 11:17 leaving before the wolves come. We know that the wolves are the exact same wolves that descended on Mount Hermon. Mount Hermon is famous for wolves. We know that the Dans are associated with these mighty ones that are associated with the fallen sons of God. It's the very same thing with the lands of Dan that are associated in the region of Mount Hermon. That's even associated with the Hermetic seal, where it gets and comes from the Hermon mountain as it connects back to Hermes. Okay? We know that the Jordan River means Yarden. Yarden means place of descent. The Jordan River chief source is flowing from Mount Hermes. And then its river, Yarden, literally has Dan in it, meaning place of descent. In other words, that's those fallen sons of God. That's who he's talking about. So there is no doubt that this connects from John 10, and then this will connect to the army of Joel 2. Those people, the great, the likes of which nobody has ever seen. And as we see, Israel don't know what it's getting into. So a stronger than the strong Ephraim is now going to come to his high refuge, overthrow him, and taketh their spoils, their luxuries. Because guess what? They took them all from here for us to die. What did they forget about? They forget about the locust? Well, locusts ain't forgot about you. They know exactly where you are. So Jesus goes on to describe this in a very detailed explanation that we already looked up, but we need to go into further. We don't have time for it. That connects, I think, to chapter 3 of Zechariah, which should be describing everything that we talked about with the candle down here being hid in the bushel, and then of course the connection to who that candle was, the God of the earth, and then we saw that he's connected to these 7 spirits, as we know, that are connected to the infestation of the 7 chakras, which are connected to the 7 stars of the Pleiades. Now, we could show you some pictures that would show more of these Pleiadian 7 stars connections, but I'm not trying to overwhelm you with too much information. My point is to see how all of this chapter in Luke chapter 11 is talking about everything that we've been talking about in heavy detail. Everything. And to understand that, watch the previous videos. But the people that should be watching, they've already been doing it, so they know. So as we leave this portion that comes from talking about Zechariah chapter 3, we come on down here and we get to this thing that this woman says to him. And it came to pass, as he spake these things, a certain woman of the company lifted up her voice and said unto him, Blessed is the womb that bare thee, and the paps which thou hast sucked. But he said, Yea, rather, blessed are they that hear the word of God and keep it. He is saying, no, It's not about the sacred feminine. It's not about no special genetics. I remember to stop there. It's not about no special bloodline. It's not about no special genetics. It's not about no holy grail for Camelot. For Camel Lot. Remember what we talked about with the camel, with Gimel, with G, with Satan, with the serpent, with the Nahesh. I'll show you the camel on the moon. All right? So it's not about this grail, this Camelot, this select, elect, privileged bloodline that these people think they are. And then this is Jesus's very humble way of saying it in retrospect of everything else that he's already said, that his seer right here is equipped to show you. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. So I need you to see that, so that you can see that continually he is trying to tell Israel that it's not about this special bloodline of this, that, and the other. He even describes that they put David higher than Jesus Christ. They're still looking for this King David, so to say, to sit on the throne, the very same throne that Jesus Christ never sat on. When he appeared, he was supposed to smite the Roman yoke by their supposed prophecies, and Jesus Christ did no such thing. Jesus Christ did not come as a militant king, and he doesn't come as a militant king right now. He said that the word that he lived has already smited them. That word already has smited him. It's basically already been over for a very long time as far as the judgment of his word is concerned. But he also said that the consummation of their crimes would have to come to the full. And we know that as the second cup, which is now this unchastised woman. In other words, Enki is going to be allowed to run his full course to experience his very own wish, the repercussions of his own actions in the full. Jesus is not going to deny him. He wants to be this man. He's going to be this man that has caused so many suffering and so much pain and so much destitution and so much oppression and so much murder on this world to get there. Well, he's going to know what it's all about, and he's going to feel it to the full. Double. Count on it. Count on it. So Jesus is talking in an essence that no, it's not about Rev 12 and this sacred woman, this sacred feminine. It's sacred humanity. All is sacred. Okay? And he's saying, nope. Truly who's blessed are just simply anybody that hears the word and keeps it. And you have the chance to hear that word now and keep it, and you'll be blessed. And then he says he can save you from these things that are going to come, but he's not going to save you in a rapture, okay? But you are going to be kept from evil. So that sounds pretty interesting to me. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Whatever Jesus Christ needs me to do, I'm going to do my best to do it, and I will die, if need be, to fulfill it. Plain and simple. All right. Now let me set back up here to don't forget what you saw in relationship to everything that I said. I talked fast. Some of these people have heard this before, but I know that it's in video form, just a few videos back, and you can see all of the foundational support that builds us up to this point, even the stuff about the camel. And then we're going to talk more about the camel in association with Camelot, and then association with Salem's Lot, and then we'll see how all that connects on up to Shinar. Unreal. Unreal. So don't forget, it's in perspective of them going to their strong refuge with their goods and their luxuries, and then the strong man come, and then we see the connection with the scattering, and then of course the unclean spirit with the 7 that connects us back to Zechariah, and then at Zechariah 5, the next chapter, we see where they are. They're on the moon, and they're with this wicked basket, and I told you who's in the basket, right? And as you see, baby in the basket, bun in the oven, right? All right. So you have to get that understood. You have to get that understood, and you have to retain this notion, this very strong notion that Jesus Christ is refuting this genetic bloodline supremacy stuff. This race supremacy. Jesus Christ is not a racist. Thank God. The irony. thanking God for not being a racist when, of course, he's the one that has created the racists. He's the one that's created all the colors, all the tones of music, the highs and the lows, all the different birds, all the different myriads of insects, and all of these things are in a sense repercussional and causatory of their conditional environments that they have sprung from, all armed with the original potential of life, the breath of life, and then of course the code of life, the star tetrahedron, that small particle, the dust of the earth, that was even infused with the very potential for the man itself to evolve from it, from the dust of the earth itself. It had that ability in it as a spark of dust. And then, of course, that potential was allowed to run its course. And by the will of the dust, as it interacted with the other elemental causations and the conditional primordial soup of our ancient past, we see that mankind begins to emerge as a living thing. And then, of course, every animal after his kind and the likeness of his kind before it. In other words, that's evolution, friend. As the species grow, they adapt. And then the animal after that is like the adaptation previous before it. And then as that animal adapts, it becomes the adaptation for the next animal after that. And then, of course, we see that mankind itself has evolved from that pathway, from dust to animal to man. And that's why you see that the mark of the beast, the mark of a beast, the mark of an animal, a beast, a creature, is also the number of a man. And then we see that mankind was created from the dust of the earth. And then we see that in Ecclesiastes, it describes that beast and man, yea, all have one breath, all created from the dust, all shall return to dust. And it talks about it in an incredible way, which explains created evolution. If you don't take created evolution as the understanding that comes right out of Genesis, well, you're stuck with the other alternative, genetic manipulation. Genetic manipulation is what they're going to use to give Enki the credibility for the creation of mankind, when you need to stick to the understanding of created evolution, in which God created man from the dust of the earth. If you understand the words of Jesus Christ, he already told you, man and woman were created both together in the beginning, which bypasses what the faulty thing is telling you in Genesis, where Eve is created out of a rib from the Adam. We know that the rib taken from Adam is making Adam an XY chromosome, which now turns Eve into the XX chromosome, the cross ribs, the crossbones, of course, which is associated with their hoopla and their cults. But my point is that Jesus Christ, once again, is telling you how to correctly divide the word and understand that mankind has evolved like a creature from the dust of this earth after his kind into the likeness of the adaptation of the potential, the direction that he could travel into the likeness and the image of God, which could love, which could forgive, and which could shew forth mercy. That, my friend, is godlike. That, my friend, is being godlike. Not murder, not death. Think about it. Think about it. So retain that. Retain what he says here. And as he retains, I will bring us back here to the parable. But before I bring us to the parable, I have to bring us back to what we've already looked at. And it's just so important that you retain it. You retain it. And then what do we start seeing showing up underneath this? Okay? Of course, with the voluptuous woman, right? Voluptuous, sensualist. We see night. Are these people not associated with this night business? And I'm talking about this camel lot, which I'm going to show you Fractal with this very same camel that I showed you. It's all there. It's all there. Everything that we've talked about, it just keeps on flowing right on into it, does it not? Does it not? All right. Now here comes the next portion that I looked up from that original Saturn word, and it brought us to this location here. Now this is when then it had Saturn, and we looked it up where it said sun beside it, and then it's brought us to right here. Pretty important thing to kind of see the connections here, because it's going to be pretty interesting when we see this Roman understanding of Saturn as a sun. And then, of course, we know that these people are, in a sense, known as Legion. You know, of course, these demons are associated with being as Legion. And then we know that these people like to associate themselves. Keep coming back once again to this race identity. I think that you lost some of that. This Soul Saturn thing is showing us all the connections with Saturn as a sun. And it's just interesting because we see Titan. All right, we know that that's those old legends that these people are continually referring to as their supposed truth within this mythos. Apollo is in connection, as I told you, with Apollyon, which I told you is really in connected to this trinity of Lucifer, Satan, the devil, or we see it now connected to Saturn as a sun. And then right under it, now we see the Egyptian equivalent, Ra, Amun-Ra, and now it goes back to Shemesh. Pretty interesting, because we see the very same themes with Shemesh to Enki, Lord of the Earth, Lord of the Flowing Waters, on the overlay in the Iraqi dinar. As I told you, Enki, this dark prince, is continually being associated with the sun. And we know that the sun, if Enki's a prince, he has a father. That father is the light bearer, the original fallen one. That would be the Lucifer. But it seems like to these people, they call this Lucifer either Satan or Lucifer, or, you know, vice versa. But in reality, I'm telling you, these beings are three separate individuals that are all locked into a trinity of deception. But the devil itself, the serpent, the Nehesh, okay, the thing that is associated with the temptation of man in the story of Genesis, the Nehesh, that's Enki. You should know his symbol from the caduceus. The caduceus is that serpent rod that you see the medical symbol is, and it should be because Enki was known as the chief physician. And then that's why you see the rib scenario where the ribs were taken from Adam to create this female, and then you see Adam was basically sewn back up and put to sleep, in a sense, this Anastasia. Well, that's that genetic manipulation that's associated with the manipulation of a certain stock of mankind that Enki did manipulate, that they're now trying to false in the world like it's the original creation of man under genetic manipulation. Jesus Christ says, nope, mankind was created in the beginning, way before that crap happened, and then he had a stock to manipulate. Understand it. You can listen to whoever you want to listen to. You can do whatever you want to do about it. But I'm telling you, you're going to get what you are wishing for. If you are wishing for some sort of genetic manipulation crap by some sort of freaking aliens or some sort of fucking stupid demons, then that's what you're going to get. Straight up. And excuse my French. That's what you're going to get. And I mean that. And sometimes it's almost like speaking like that is the only way to get some of you people to understand. So there it is, all right there. There's the Saturn that's now associated with the sun, where you can see that's connected to their Egyptian sun god worship that goes back deeper into a more deeper rabbit hole about Saturn being a displaced sun of our solar system. Okay? So, whatever. Now, something important. This is very important. This is what I was going to show you, how we're going to take this Saturn thing, we're going to take it back to everything that is showing the actions of what these people are showing us on the comments page. And then it's going to connect us to the things that I've told you about the daughters of men, that they chose all that were fair. If you look at the two columns, Jashin and Boaz, you'll see that the Jashin column is considered fair. It's considered white. And I told you that that column is known as beauty. In other words, it's the unification of the daughters of man with the beast, with the serpent fallen ones. We know that Dan is the mighty one. He's known as an ancient serpent god. That's the unification between those. Now, I wish I had that one image to show you guys real fast. There's just always so much to show you. It's always so much to show you. Okay, now, if you remember, and you could go back in the other video, beside the Saturn, we had this thing, turmoil. All right, now you can now begin to start understanding what is beginning to fulfill for these people with this warning that I'm telling you about. It's beginning to fulfill, and you're going to see it fulfill even further at their Shinar. Okay? You can look at all of this, and if you know the scriptures well, and the things that I have spoke about and talked about and what's coming, all of this is starting to fulfill with these synagogues of Satan that have created nothing but deception, and then try to blame it on everyone else, and then now going to run off like they're spot-free, or they're scot-free, as a friend of mine used to say. Well, you're not. You're not. Because, as I said, you can't run from yourself. So now, that word, Saturnalia, that we originally looked at as a distinction, like a character distinction of those associated with Saturn, begins to show up with exactly the way that they act on the comments page. Pandemonium, okay, Babel, Matt Nicholson, okay, Rufus Aller, Saturnalia, fair. Can you believe this? All the way back to Satan, all the way back to that ancient myth, that midrashic myth about Genesis and Satan being that camel, all right? Everything that we know about Camelot and its association with the Holy Grail, which is really the bloodline of these fallen ones, which was used to produce the dark matter. In other words, the genetically unsealed DNA. Okay, if it's not sealed, it's not sealed with the Holy Ghost. We know that the Holy Ghost is the infinite spirit that pervades all space. Well, many of you probably don't know that. The Holy Ghost is an infinite spirit. The infinite spirit pervades all space. That's what Jesus Christ said. Well, you can curse me, you can curse the Father. But if you blaspheme the Holy Ghost, well, that's unforgivable. Well, that's what CERN is doing. They've been blaspheming the Holy Ghost. If the Holy Ghost pervades all space, well, you know, in those little atoms and molecules that they were blasting, what were they trying to do? They were trying to get rid of the light out of it. Exactly right, because they were looking for something, were they not? I'm telling you, friends. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. We see fair. We see for these supposed fair ones that come from the descendancy of the selection of these fallen sons of God. They chose from all of the kingdoms of men, the daughters of which they thought were fair. This is associated now with Mystery Babylon, which we now see in proudly displaying its Saturnalia. And of course we have these fair ones which are confused. And then we see that Jesus Christ has described them as worse confounded. Worse confounded. In a way, you're going to see, I've already showed it to you, and you're going to see it was right there within the distinction of what we're talking about. But before we do that, let me show you something right now. Most admired. Zechariah 11:17, everything that we connected with from Luke 11, verse 33, and through the entire chapter connects to Zechariah chapter 11:17, describing woe unto the idle shepherds that leaveth the flock. That connects to John chapter 10, which describes the whole thing about who the true shepherd is and when the idle shepherd leaves right before the wolves come. And then you saw in Luke chapter 11, Jesus describes that those strong ones that leave are actually going to get their wolves coming to their own door. Right? That's the confusion of this mystical Babylon. These fair ones are seriously confused, and they're about to be worse confounded than they started, because they're going to take these seven. Guess who these seven are? Those are the ones that have rose the seventh chakra kundalini, which we know are the Dans themselves. If I told you, those are also the illuminated ones. Those are the locusts, of course, breathing fire, smoke, and brimstone. So these most admired, that's an idol. That's an idol. Idol shepherds. the most admired, these ones that are creating this disorder. You see them flashing that one-eye symbolism. Go check Zechariah 11:17 to understand. We know that Israel is dispersed to 44 kings. We now know that the United States is at its 44th king. We see it proudly displaying its idol shepherd, of course, but it's not the people of the United superstars, these political leaders, these elect, and these privileged few. These people that think that somehow there's some sort of holy grail for their camel Lot. Well, as you know, the story about Lot, and you know what happens to his wife. Well, we know what's described for Israel, the wife, the mother Israel. She's going to be dashed in pieces. Just as the fractal describes Camelot, the Holy Grail. You ain't got a chance. Your Holy Grail is a grail more like an open sepulcher of the death that you don't even realize has marred your honor. You're not a knight doing the things of truth. You're doing the things of deception. And it's all right here. It's all right here. So if we look a little further, Israel, bedlam broke loose. Remember all your codes about the bread? Or about the bed, I should say. Remember that Pink Floyd album cover, See the Truth, with all the beds on the coast? That all these channels are symbolically trying to describe that people that are sleeping are going to be taken unawares and surprised by this calamity. That bull in a china shop, huh? Remember that golden calf? The china shop is that select, that pretty white china. Bull in a china shop, huh? We see that Inky's the bull, and he's going to wreck that china shop. All that fat in the fire, Isaiah 34, we know who the fat is. The devil to pay? The wages of sin are death. The wages of sin are death, Israel. The devil to pay. The devil to pay, and no bitch hot. Pretty kettle of fish. Pretty little kettle of fish. Pretty or nice piece of work, Israel. You've done a pretty piece of business. I'll be back.